Planning travel can sometimes feel like a mess. You have 50 open tabs and no obvious place to start. What most people don't realize is there's a very specific order you need to do things in. And I've personally planned countless trips to over 40 different countries at this point, everything from a long weekend to 6 straight months of full-time travel. And every one of those trips got planned the exact same way. 5 steps, 1 spreadsheet, same order every time. So today I'm showing you my exact process, start to finish. The 5 things you need to do every time, the mistakes that ruin your plans, and I'm building a real trip with you inside the actual sheet I use. Step 1, pick the place. Not the flight, not the dates, the place. And chances are you already have one. So for example, my wife and I keep a running list of everywhere we want to go. Every trip a friend raves about, every place a video sells us on, every we have to go there someday. It goes on the list. So start there. If your list is thin or the inspiration just isn't flowing, go get inspired. Maybe watch some of our destination videos or go somewhere who's better at that kind of thing. Go binge Rick Steves. That's what I do when I'm stuck and I want to go to Europe. I'm not quite sure where. Here's a new move that I've been using a lot lately, and it works shockingly well. So I keep a list of every country and city we've ever been to, plus some quick notes on what we loved and what we didn't. And so I will drop that file into AI and let it hand me ideas that I might not have thought of on my own. And then I just read what comes back. I don't tell it the answer I want. I let it surprise me, and then I go research the ones that maybe spark something for me. I'll show you something else I did for a Europe trip we're currently planning. I took that same list of countries and cities, dropped it into Claude, and then I said, essentially, show me the biggest gaps in terms of places we haven't been, and rank the results by % of the destination we've never covered by how many UNESCO World Heritage sites that place has. And what I was given back was a very powerful tool, showing me, wow, I've been to Spain 6 times, and there is still so much ground I haven't covered. And yet I've been to Germany and Austria a whole bunch of times, and of course, this is a dramatic oversimplification, but I've really covered a lot of ground there. This is cool because it kind of quickly shows you where some of your gaps are. Now, it's helpful to remember the whole concept of a nation, a country, if you will, for a lot of the world is actually kind of new. Much of the world, for much of the history of the world, has been divided more into distinct regions. And so when I plan a trip, typically that's how I'm choosing. I'm not trying to do a country, I'm picking a region. So I'm not planning Germany, I'm planning Bavaria. Later this year, even though I've been to Spain countless times, we're going back because we've never visited the Basque Country. Now hold on to that because why I do it that way is the whole key to step 2. When are you going and for how long? When is a balancing act between the weather you want, the crowds you can stand, and when you can actually travel. And you want to match the place to the season. Right? Sweden is incredible, but if the only time you can go realistically is November when it's cold and dark, that might not be the trip that you've been dreaming of. And for some of the big European cities, peak summer means packed, hot, and expensive. You'll have more fun in spring or fall. Now, quick heads up, I've said it on this channel before, shoulder season is my favorite time to travel, but I'm noticing people are catching wise. It's not quite the cheat code it used to be. So you might even want to slide a little further off peak than you think. Now, how long? And this is where I open the tool that we're going to use for the rest of this video. Now, I start stupid simple. 3 columns. The first one is just date. 1 row per day. I don't even know my exact dates yet. So I'm just going to throw one out there. Let's say 10 days in mid-September. Sunday the 13th in the first row. And then I click and drag down. Boom. 10 days staring right back at me. All right, now the real work starts, and this is what I call parallel parking. Okay, you've got your country or your region, and likely at this point you'll have a wish list of cities or places within that region you want to visit. Maybe you've got a good kind of idea of the number of days, and then your whole job is just dividing those days between those cities without shortchanging any of them. So I go down the list, place by place. How many days in Milan? How many days in Venice? How many days in Florence? The Cinque Terre? And to get those numbers, I do a few things, right? A quick Google, but watch out because a lot of blogs that may rank for those results are just gonna default to how long that person happened to stay there, which doesn't make it correct. Then I'll use Reddit or specialty forums. For example, if I'm doing Europe, Rick Steves' travel forum is great for Europe because those people are fanatics like me. They've actually spent time in these places. And then guidebooks. I'll say it again, Rick Steves, he puts a chart at the front of most of his books. Here's how to do Italy in 14 days. And underneath, then he'll say things like, if you've only got 3 days, go here. 5 days, add this. 7, add that. Now here's where I wanna be honest about Rick. Rick might say 4 days in a city, but if half of what he's recommending is art and history museums, and trust me, I love those, but now I'm in a season of life where I have a toddler and I can't do 2 full days of museums. In terms of actually seeing the place, maybe I only need 2, so I might still give myself 3 or 4. I'm just giving myself room to breathe. But as I go through and look at these cities, I'm doing just a little negotiation for every city on the list. How much time do I really need here? Now this part people can kind of get weird about. Must see, I think it's kind of a snobby term, honestly, right? Because if a famous thing genuinely doesn't interest you, you're allowed to skip it. Now, I'd say try to see some of the signature things. Don't fly all the way to Rome and skip the Colosseum. But could you skip tossing a coin in the Trevi Fountain? Totally, right? This is kind of art plus science. The science is the day count, and the art is knowing what you actually want out of the place or the trip. This is a literal sheet I put together when trying to plan our limited time in Rome and southern Italy. And it really helped me prioritize and plan. So you do this for every city, and then here's what usually happens. You back up, and you realize, 10 days across 5 cities, once you add in travel time, barely any time at all. So you cut a city, or maybe you add days. You put a number down, you learn something, you back up, you try again. Parallel parking, that's why I call it that. Kind of Generally, just speaking from experience, you will not regret fewer cities and more days with each of them. Nobody's handing out medals, okay? Who are you doing this for? It's okay to slow down. All right, you've got a rough plan on the sheet. Now, let's start looking at flights. You already did some hard thinking. You know the region, you know the season, and you know the length. All that's left is letting the calendar find you a deal. My number 1 rule is choose your exact dates last. If you've got any wiggle room at all, even a day or 2, use the date grid in Google Flights, which is gonna show you how the price moves as you slide your days around. And it's gonna highlight the cheaper days in green. Okay, travel influencer guy, I have a job. I don't just make videos for a living. I hear you. I'm not saying weeks or months of wiggle room. You gotta coordinate vacation with your boss. You gotta work around the kids' school schedule. I get it. Leaving 1 day earlier or later can sometimes make a massive difference in flight pricing. This date grid right here has saved me over $500 on a single booking. That's all I'm talking about. Now, you'll also get some clues about how the pricing you're seeing compares to the going rate for this itinerary and when it thinks the best time to book is. In my experience, about 2 to 6 months out is kind of the sweet spot for international flights, earlier than that for peak summer travel. But let's say you're not seeing any really compelling prices for your flights. I recommend looking at not just being flexible with your departure and arrival dates, but also being flexible with your departure and arrival airports. Google lets you search multiple departure and arrival airports at the same time, which can help you get better deals. Now, this can be really useful for something like European travel because so many of these places are only a 1.5 to 2 hour flight from each other. If you find a really good deal to a city close to the place you want to visit, you can arrange alternative ways of getting there. For example, if you want to visit Prague, maybe you also search Vienna, Warsaw, and Munich, because realistically, you can get to Prague from any of those places via a train or a pretty short flight. And so to do this, I use a tool called FlightConnections.com because it shows you the direct flights in and out of airports all over the world. Now, you can use this a bunch of different ways, but I like to use it simply to visualize the web of different options to get to where I want to go. I also use it to see what my options might be for building my itinerary in more of an open jaw format instead of round trip. I go deeper into this, into repositioning flights, and also into how to find good deals on flights in a video that we released earlier this year, and I'll link that below so we can keep moving through the planning process. When it comes time to book, what I'm actually locking in right now is the big stuff, the flight over and the flight home. I'm not too worried yet about point-to-point travel. I'm gonna do that later. And then I'm going back to my sheet and I'm adjusting my overall trip dates if need be. And now we can begin fine-tuning. When you've done that, then let's start thinking about the point-to-point travel. And this is more than just finding a good price. This is deciding what sort of experience you wanna have, because you might have options. For example, if you wanna go from Prague to Budapest, you could take a 7-hour train, a 7-hour bus, or a $68 Ryanair flight that takes an hour. Now, this is more preference than anything, but pay attention to the travel times and jot those down in your sheet. Using a site like Rome2Rio to help you do this can help you get a better idea of the door-to-door math, right? The flight I mentioned might only be an hour, but realistically, you're burning 4 with the whole airport experience. Now, depending on when you arrive, this might mean you need to adjust your expectations of how long you have in each city. For example, your sheet said you were spending day 5 in Budapest, but realistically, you're not arriving until noon. So you don't have 4 days there, you have 3.5, and you might need to adjust your expectations accordingly. Hey, if you've gotten value out of this video so far, please hit that like button. And if you like videos like this, be sure to subscribe because there is way more where this came from. All right, so that's transportation. But don't put off this next part until the last minute, because where you sleep makes a massive difference in what the trip actually feels like. So we're just gonna keep the momentum going. The biggest lever isn't the property you choose to stay at, it's the neighborhood. One of the coolest places we ever stayed was an Airbnb in Leiden in the Netherlands. It had a historic windmill right out the back door. It was incredible. The host gave me a tour of the mill. I loved it, but I got it wrong because we were staying really far from everything. Every coffee, every dinner, every grocery run started with a 15-minute walk into town. And we're not afraid of walking, but you want to stay somewhere where you have at least some stuff nearby. So I would pick a neighborhood first. What area of the place do you want to live in for a week or for however long you have there? Close to food, close to transit, the stuff that you're gonna want at any given time. And then find the coolest place inside that area. A slightly boring apartment in a perfect location beats a stunning one in the middle of nowhere every single time. And by the way, there's no wrong answer. Like, the Leiden Airbnb was incredibly peaceful, just really far from everything. All right, now the search begins, finding that perfect place inside the neighborhood you picked. But before you book anything, a couple of things to be mindful of. One, I would avoid booking through third-party sites like booking.com. I'm gonna get to the why in a second. Two, don't book through an ad, not on social media, and not the sponsored result at the top of your search. Let me explain. This recent scam report tracked scam campaigns that reached over 60 million people through social media and video platforms, and a lot of them are travel, fake hotel deals, fake flights, fake booking pages that look nearly identical to the real thing. It even had the right logo, the right photos, and a price just a little better than other places. The price is the bait. Would you catch it? Because a lot of people don't. Your card number goes straight to a scammer and there's no guest house on the other end. So, a few rules. Don't reach a booking page through an ad. Scroll past it, type the address yourself. Read the URL before you pay, character by character, because the fakes are usually just a couple letters off. And if a message about your booking feels urgent, verify it with the property through a separate channel. Manufactured urgency is a real red flag, okay? And because it's hard to catch absolutely everything, I recommend Bitdefender. Scam Protection Pro automatically flags things like fake booking sites and bad links before you're anywhere near a payment page. And if you're ever unsure about something that looks fishy, paste it into Scamio Pro, which gives you a second opinion in a few seconds. That kind of protection will let you book the types of properties I actually prefer. Family-run hotels, bed and breakfast, little guest houses, direct on their own website. And Bitdefender offers family plans for personalized protections tailored to each family member. Click the link in the description below to get Bitdefender and protect your digital life through all kinds of travel booking scenarios. Big thanks to Bitdefender for sponsoring today's video. Now, back to booking.com and why I don't book there, even though I might use it in my search process. What most people don't realize is the big sites cost those small boutique hotel owners a lot. Booking.com and the like take a 15 to 20% cut. So you might use them to find the place, but you want to go book directly with the hotel. And if the direct price is the same, you could just email the hotel and ask for a little bit off. The worst they can say is no, but honestly, I've knocked money off of plenty of stays doing exactly that. Okay, one more filter before you click book. Always, always, always read the reviews from the last 30 days. Not the glowing ones from 3 years ago, okay? Places change hands, cleaners quit. The construction site next door is happening right now, and only the recent reviews are talking about it. Booking internationally, check the local language reviews too. Those are a lot harder to fake. Flight, neighborhood, place. That all goes in the sheet. Now we have one step left. What you'll actually do and eat there. This is what the trip's about, right? By saving this for the end, you already know your cities, you know your days, you know your pace. Now you can go day by day in your sheet, and only a couple of things really matter. First, lock in the must-sees. And I mean the 2 or 3 things you'd be genuinely bummed if you missed. The big ticket stuff with lines around the block where timed tickets sell out in advance. You don't want to go all the way to Amsterdam and not get to see the Anne Frank house. So get stuff like that booked as far in advance as you're able. Everything else, you can keep kind of loose, all right? Don't overstuff your days with timed stuff. I also recommend pairing an indoor thing and an outdoor thing in the same neighborhood. So if you have a rainy morning, it doesn't send you zigzagging across the city. No matter what, leave some white space. That is where the best stuff lives. One of our favorite nights of travel ever was at this tiny wine bar in Dubrovnik, where we only ducked in because it was pouring rain. We ended up splitting a bottle with this other couple, and we still talk about them to this day. That wasn't on my list. You can't book that. You just leave room for it. Second, the food. And I'll be honest, this is really my wife Allie's zone of genius, so I'm gonna break down her process because she is phenomenal at this. She actually made a video on her process years ago on our channel. I'll link that below, but here's the short version. Before you decide where to eat, figure out what to eat. Google the local specialties, the drinks, the desserts, region by region, and then start a list. You can just put it right here on your sheet. Then go find them, okay? So search where to eat XYZ in your city, or best, whatever that dish is, in your city, and pull up the Reddit threads. Start building a short list, and then cross-reference it against Google reviews. But Allie's real edge is how she reads those reviews, okay? So don't just chase the top rated or the most reviewed place, because the tourist mills are often sitting on 12,000 reviews. She filters for 4 stars and up and then hunts the sweet spot, a high rating with only a few hundred reviews. That's usually where locals might actually eat. And read the actual reviews, not just the star number. So often, those reviews are from someone who had no clue where they were.
I didn't like that Italian place because they didn't have any manicotti. They didn't put ice in my drink. I had to beg for the check.
Yes, ma'am. You're in Italy, not Olive Garden. But the most important part isn't online at all. Ask your host, ask your driver, ask locals that you meet. That's where the real gems come from. That is my entire system, and it's what I've done for just about every trip for the last 10 years. It's made this whole process much less stressful for me, and I hope it will for you too. If you're scratching your head on where to go next, you'll definitely want to check out this video because it's 7 of our absolute favorite trip itineraries you could just copy. Thank you so much for watching. Happy travels.